Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from the beautiful Govardhan Eco Village in lovely Maharashtra, India. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show, everybody. We're live here with a huge group of live students who are doing the training, the Wisdom of the Sages training, as well as the Bhakti Yoga 300-hour cultural immersion training. We're still here. It's Sleeping Saturday. Although we didn't let anybody sleep in because we're on crazy India time. So what time is it in New York right now? 6:30 a.m. We're here with a bunch of Zoomers, and then it gets uploaded to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and all the rest. Mara's here spinning the dials, but she's about to step away from her desk. And we're going to bring in a special Q&A day person, Q&A day with Walter Schreifels, who's here in India with us. Walter is not only a really a respected musician, toured internationally with his bands Quicksand, Rival Schools, Gorilla Biscuits, but also he was in Youth of Today. So he has a really interesting angle of Bhakti because he saw me at the height of our, success in touring, just quit the band and not talk to him for many years. and then also our guitar. I quit Youth of Today, and then disappeared. And then Walter and Parmananda, aka Purcell, they ended up starting two very successful bands that got even bigger, I think. Then Walt, after 3 years, Purcell quit and he joined Shelter, which that time I was starting. And then Walter went on just touring the world and, big concerts. And he's a very talented musician, always a nice guy. And then we sort of reconnected when Youth of Today started doing reunions again. And then he surprised the hell out of me by saying, I want to do a teacher training. He's become very athletic now. He's runs marathons. And so it was sort of surprising. And we were well, it'd be great to hear Walter's perspective, as well as he's doing this training. There's a lot of philosophy. We can pick his brain and see if he's got any questions. He can pick our brains. And already our message board is lighting up because there is a demographic of people that listen that are Youth of Today or Gorilla Biscuits fans. So please welcome Walter, everybody.
Hey, do we have announcements?
Oh, wait, before Walter gets here, Mara's got announcements. Hold it. Okay.
Hold it. We'll do that again. It's a little bit anticlimactic, but
he just wants double the applause. We have no show tomorrow. Because it's Sunday.
Okay.
Because you said so.
Because I said so earlier.
There is an Urban Navy meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. for ladies via the Bhakti Center. If you go to bhakticenter.org, you can get info there. And there's also a BRG meeting today at 9:30 a.m.
The BRG is blowing up here.
Yeah, that's
everybody is coming to me. Oh my God, thank God Jiva's here in the BRG. She's incredible. If you haven't checked out that, bhaktirecoverygroup.com, it's our Bhakti version of a 12-step program. So if you've had any trauma, which is everyone who's alive, you might want to check it out. It helps you function in life, work forward on your spiritual path. What to speak of, give you shelter if you're really struggling with some real hard substance abuse or just simple codependence issues that sometimes screws up valuable relationships. So we're really grateful we're a part of and connected with her in a deep way. Walter, welcome. Come real close, brother. Okay, we're really excited you're here. Hey, if you're listening to this on Facebook, we do this every day. It's a study of the sacred literature of the Vedas, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is all about connecting soul to spirit, our soul to divine spirit, the jiva to God. Yeah, we got to close that curtain because right now it looks like Walter has divine light, or maybe it is your third eye is open. Walter, welcome, brother.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
You've heard this podcast, right?
I have heard it. I was in the one that you did in the van in Italy.
Oh yeah.
So he's already been a part of this.
We were doing the podcast sometimes while in the van because I just couldn't keep the schedule properly. We had long drives.
We were all cracked out. We haven't been sleeping. And then you're like, okay, it's like whatever, some crazy time. Let's do this. It's time for the show.
Shut up, everybody.
Shut up for the next 2 hours. Whatever it was. Yeah, it was fun.
And, maybe just give a little backstory about how we started hanging out together.
When I was into the hardcore punk rock kind of world in New York, I'd just gotten into it, and it was kind of at this pivotal time where it was sort of getting lame in a way. And I just kind of came in from my point of view, it was getting lame. And I was kind of thinking maybe I should just be in the ska scene. It seems a bit cooler.
Ska scene was sort of cool at the time.
And less violence, more girls. Maybe this is for me. And then there
was definitely a shortage of girls in the hardcore scene.
Didn't understand why. I did not get it. And then Ray's band Youth of Today came out with a 7-inch that was just a 7-inch record, which was an accomplishment at that time because you guys were teenagers and you made like an actual record. It was incredible, and the lyrics were amazing, and it was exactly what I wanted to hear. So I was very inspired by Ray's band, and then I would go see their shows, and I got to know Ray a little bit, and then eventually their bass player left, and then I was asked to join the band and told to become vegetarian, and the rest is history. I was on the way already. Anyway, I was down to just like chicken or something, and he was like, cool, but when you go on tour, you're going to be vegetarian. Yeah.
It was part of the job description.
Yeah.
It was also very interesting because it wasn't a normal like, hey, I'm just going to join the band. It was, we had to very delicately extract him from the band Warzone without getting our butts kicked.
Yeah. I was in this other band, Warzone, who the guy's a really nice guy actually, but it was this kind of scary band and you didn't want to cross this guy. So they had to get me out without getting the whole band beat up. And I think Purcell took the hit, I think.
You always got to send one guy to take the hit. I remember Purcell saved the message on his answer machine, which was something like,
it was like, hey, Bo. I don't know.
It was like, Bo, when I find you, I'm going to kick you.
Yeah, he's going to beat him up.
You still Walter from the band? I'm going to kick you. But Walter wasn't a good fit for that band. He wasn't a good fit for Warzone, Lower East Side skinheads. He's like sort of like a happy-go-lucky dude. And then we went on tour.
And we had the best time, and it was incredible. Like, becoming vegetarian, and also Ray was very instrumental in like the New York scene was very much like a kind of a drug, alcohol kind of scene. And Ray kind of came in and just scrubbed the place clean.
I'm like the power washer.
Yeah. And so I was, becoming straight edge. Then we went across the country, and every city that we went to, you could just hear people's minds just like popping and just being like, I'm going to start a fanzine. I'm going to start a band. I'm going to become straight edge. And it was all just like presenting these kind of simple messages with like really effective music and having an ideology. And I think it really worked.
It helps to have at least a straight and narrow path when you're a teenager and you're looking to something to latch onto. It's good. It's a good thing. And I think that was how we always felt like, you know what, whatever this is, it's a good thing. And Walter was a good guy to hang out with. And his singer of Gorilla Biscuits, he came as our roadie on the trip. So that was also fun. We became very close with these guys. And then I split. Now, some people are saying, wait a second, I thought interview days on Sunday. Today is actually Q&A day, but all the Q's are going to come, all the questions are going to come from Walter today.
Well, first of all, I want to say it's been a joy having Walter here, for this retreat. And there's one thing that concerns me. And that is that I see you two here reminiscing like dear friends, but I know there's a deep underlying tension between the two.
There is some deep pain I have. I still, to really evolve spiritually, you really need to let go of your resentment.
Exactly.
There's one deep resentment I've had towards Walter for a while now.
It's brought up on the show yesterday. You're talking about it on the show. It's
I had
still
to
there. It's
share on
deep,
the show,
it's
but
real.
I felt bad sharing. You weren't here.
I can't imagine what it would be. I have no idea.
Well, there was a time, you guys, it's like I had been sort of like, I was obsessed with hardcore music at the time, underground hardcore music, and then Youth of Today. And I just felt like, all right, I've had my fill with hardcore music. And then I started getting into happier music. And I switched from the most intense hardcore. And I was sort of on a spiritual path. And I started listening to Broadway musicals. Broadway musicals.
A classic
this is what we were talking
fast track to the spiritual path.
It's sort of like it was a gateway drug to kirtan, I think. Musicals. And two of my favorites that I still held on to, I would have had two when I moved into the temple, but one of them was Les Mis and Pippin. Now, Pippin was played when I drove the van. I played Pippin on a regular basis, and I would sing to it with great joy, fervor, and love. And then Walter, from what I understand, took that Pippin cassette and whipped it out the window.
And all these years, it's still eating you up.
No, come on. I was the main supporter of your Pippin thing. I was the main guy that liked it. And our band was full of like practical jokers and little mean
Pranksters.
It was not me. I've had some of my cassettes thrown. I had what is that band called? Not Naked Reggae. That would have ended up in the ocean too.
If we didn't like the music, I was very definitive what was allowed and what was not allowed. And if something didn't fit into my criteria, it would just end up in the ocean.
Yeah, that one was not me. Rest in pieces. Purcell took it out of the cassette player, ran down. We were in Virginia Beach, ran to the beach and chucked it in the ocean. It was a no. But I was the one, remember we just played recently, who was the guy that had the little Bluetooth speaker and played Pippin for you to get you psyched up?
That was you. Before the show, he played Pippin.
See?
Okay. So you're saying you had nothing to do with it?
If it wasn't me, I would never.
No, nothing. Okay. You're
And
off the hook. I'll
Raghunath,
resent the other two.
Quite frankly, I feel that if you're traveling in a van with a hardcore band and you decide to bring a Pippin cassette, really you own a good part of
that responsibility.
Yeah, I think some of that's on you.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
All right. So we could go on more and more about our history as we go, but maybe let's
Questions.
you sent me the questions that Walter had. They were actually very, very good
I
questions.
like these
So,
questions. Yeah.
you want to?
Yeah, I'll set 'em
You
up.
have them, Walter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
He texted them to me too. I can pull them up here.
I got it.
Cindy Hot Yoga texted me.
I got them here.
Oh, okay, great. All right.
So being here for the last 2-3 weeks, I'm missing my family, but I'm really missing my dog. She's a wonderful dog, and I'm missing petting her and her being so psyched when I come in. She's just wonderful. And I think about her life, and I think she's got such a great life. Like, we love her. We're just always so psyched about her. We feed her. She finds things that I find disgusting. She thinks are great. She has a great life. But yet, so I'm looking at my dog's life with envy. But why are some births considered lower? If I were to be born a dog, if I'm thinking, hey, that's pretty good, I'm thinking maybe a dog is in a lower birth.
Well, it's definitely less complicated in all those things regard.
Well, you have Gus, and
I have
Gus seems
I
to live
love
a
my dog.
relatively
He's got a
simple
pretty-
life.
He's got a pretty simple life. He's got it made. And he's humble. He's like, I never get a welcome from any of the kids like I get when Gus comes home.
Never. Gus is psyched.
Gus is like, he's here again.
His body
All I have to do is like stand up. He's like, are we going outside? Yeah. I'm so psyched. I was like, well, we're not, but are we going in the car? The little things in life make him happy. If I say, hey, kids, we're going in the car, they're like, and what are you purchasing for me?
Yeah.
Gus is just like a ride in the car.
Yeah, it's just great. Dogs are always psyched up. Her body like works perfectly. Everything's just, she's not neurotic in any way that I can really think troubles her. She seems like that's a pretty good birth, I think.
I think it is a pretty good birth if your master is Walter. A lot of dogs don't have it that good. A lot of dogs live in the woods,
What?
like coyotes,
Oh, okay.
those type of wild dogs, travel in packs. And animals in the woods never die natural deaths. You know that?
Okay.
Once they get to a certain weakness of being, then they just become prey for other animals.
They never die of starvation, of cold.
Yeah, it's quite horrific. It's cold outside. Not your dog, though. Your dog's kept warm in the winter,
Great.
cool in the summer. You probably hose her down a little bit.
Yep, she's living great. I guess it could apply not only to dogs, but just like why are some births? I mean, you told a story the other day about someone being born into a tree, but they seem to be aware of being a human in a tree. That seems bad.
This stinks. I can't move. Oh, I got an itch. I got an itch. Somebody.
You are actually a tree, and you're just doing tree things, and you're living as a tree. It seems like very peaceful and serene. I mean, I'm just imagining it with my human consciousness. So I guess like, why are some births considered lower? I wonder.
Okay. You're going to give a very simple answer. I'm going to give the roundabout squirrel answer.
Okay.
That has to do with Lord Indra, who has so
Oh.
much more freedom than we do, so much more opportunity than us, so much more opulence than us, so much more like the sense gratification, like the gods, they say, know how to enjoy their senses much better than we do. So Lord Indra, for some reason, got cursed to be a pig.
So he went from the top
From the top of
in the
heavens
universe.
to the lowest, like from
Kinda.
like penthouse, you're sleeping on the street, so to speak.
You're eating out of the gutters in the street.
And the pigs eat the feces. Pigs are like in slop. And so it was heartbreaking for all the other demigods to see their master Indra like in such a horrific situation. But Maya's so magical that she can make you think the most miserable situation is a great situation. So when they all appealed to Indra, we're so sad to see you like this. You've got to, counterbalance that offense you made. You got to ask for forgiveness. We want to see you reinstated in the heavenly planets. And he said, what are you talking about? This is great. He's like in this pig body, this horrific snorting pig body covered in mud and filth. He's got, everything's great here. Look at my home. I got a nice home. I could rest in this stuff. The demigods couldn't even smell it. It was disgusting. And then all of a sudden he says, and look at my beautiful wife. Check her out. Check out her tail, how it curls. Isn't that cute? Look at her little hooves. I love her hooves. Look at her snout. Doesn't it think a sexy snout on her? And then
And like that's not as covered in feces.
yeah, the cover's covered in feces. He goes, and look at all my beautiful babies. And the demigods were like, oh my God, he doesn't even understand. He's a pig in feces in a slop bucket. So, Kaustubha, why don't you pick up from there?
Well, I suppose the message there is that he's unaware of how he was enjoying on a much higher level. But I think that kind of speaks to the answer that I was going to give a bit. That what is the name of your dog, Walter? Mimi. Okay.
Mimi.
So Mimi, I think Mimi's probably a very fortunate dog, and although city life can be a little confined for a dog,
Yeah.
but I'm sure you
has
take her out.
disgusting smells that she likes.
Okay.
He likes those smells.
I
I mean,
just
they're interesting smells. You know what I mean? There's a lot there.
Lots to smell. Not much to dig.
Not much to dig, but we take her out to the country, so we have
Okay,
a
there
place
we go.
there. So she has the best of both. Actually.
Okay. So, but here's the point: is that whatever pleasures that Mimi may be enjoying, comforts, and pleasures in your home and upstate, as well as out on the streets of New York, from the yogic perspective, it would be seen like that is the soul within Mimi. It's Mimi herself in the dog body has a potential that's like way, way, way beyond a potential for like feelings of bliss, way beyond what's available to Mimi, and in one sense that ourselves as humans are experiencing too. But the difference between the human life is that you have the capacity to try to understand that, and the capacity to try to strive for that, like the capacity to do yoga, which means the yogi is saying, my mind has kind of got me under control. It's been programmed in certain ways. It's convincing me I want this and I want that. As a human being, I have the opportunity to examine that within my mind and determine, hey, you know, I'm reading these ancient texts. You know, I'm observing my world. I'm looking within myself sometimes. This is making sense. Let me see if let me consider yoga. Let me consider the idea that I could gain, that perhaps my mind has me convinced that there's certain things in the world that I need to make me happy that I really don't need, that there's certain identities that I've embraced that really have nothing to do with me, that I'm going through cycles of just like passing through this again and again and again. There are pleasures there, but it's always followed by some pain afterwards. So it's kind of an up and down track that I'm on. As a human being, I have the opportunity to say, oh, there's an opportunity to break that. Let me look into that. Let me practice that. Let me discipline myself. Whereas for Mimi, as in the dog, from what we understand, it would be a rare dog, very rare dog, that would have the opportunity to do that. So therefore, the yogis say when you achieve that human birth, it's like a rare opportunity. It's a special chance that you have. Be careful with it. Don't let it slip away, or it may take a while before you have that opportunity again.
Not every dog is Mimi. Also, you got to think there's a lot of unkept dogs. You just walk around India, Africa, these type of worlds. The dogs are not kept oftentimes.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of pain in dog life.
There can be.
There's a lot of like, even in like certain humane societies, if they don't get I don't know if it's the humane society or these people that do take care of stray dogs and stuff. They take care of them, but eventually they kill them if they can't get rescued at a certain point. So not every dog is a Mimi. You have out of dogs, your dog's got some great karma.
She's living great.
She's living like the king of dogs.
She's got a great attitude towards life.
Well, that all that we've said, it's not to put the dog. When we say lower birth, it doesn't mean that we look at the dog and say you're just a dog.
Yeah.
It means that unfortunately you don't have a certain opportunity that you will get in the future.
That we've been given this like incredibly powerful mind and intelligence, which is mostly misplaced. So it's almost like if I've given you an incredible machine, some incredible vehicle to drive around it, but you just don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So it's just like you're wrecking things, you're bumping into things, you're hitting the wrong buttons. We've been given this mind, and we've when we do figure out how to use it, oftentimes we use it for things that screw us up. Almost in one sense, better for most humans to be Mimi. What a life. They're kept. They're taken care of. They're fed on time at regular meals. There's no fear. There's no worry about a gang of dogs are going to rip its head off. He's completely protected. It's a good karma of a dog.
Yeah.
But if you actually but they just can't. They just don't have that deep intelligence to go to higher planes of existence, which is what we're supposed to be doing with this complicated intelligence.
So
mind.
If you're not using your mind in that way as a human, you might be better off being Mimi.
It better, because it totters right down to anxiety, fear. Right. And this is the evolution, they say, of species in the Vedic version, that the jiva is always evolving to higher and higher species. And then we get to the chance to a human life where we're not necessarily evolving. And even in our life today, we can see that some choices I make me devolve as a being. Some choices make me evolve as a being. Like after a meal, I could say, man, why did I eat that? I wasn't even hungry. That's a devolved choice, right? Why did I do that? What was I thinking? Why did I waste years of my life with that girl or guy, etc.? You know, in those, we become the sum total of all of our choices in this lifetime. Have we evolved in this life or devolved in this life with all our lessons that came to us?
Yeah, this kind of goes, I think, one level deeper into it. The idea of freedom. Like, in other words, as a human being may get introspective and say, why did I make all these decisions? You know, why did I do this in my life? And why did I do that in my life? Now, when I look at it, I see that those were not wise decisions. And one could say that in one sense, because they were controlled, right? Because they fell victim to the demands of the mind and the senses. So they were kind of like locked down. They were kind of, we think that we have the freedom to make all the choices that we make. I share this sometimes. I share with Walter because I think he'll be able to relate. Like when I was a 15-year-old kid, I hit the Lower East Side, and I was like, you know, because like you're 15, it's like coming of age. You know, it's like for the first time in your life, it's like apparently you're making the decisions for yourself.
I'm free.
Right?
This
Yeah.
is it. It's
People
like,
aren't
this is-
laying it out for you. You're kind of like, I'm going to choose what I'm going to do. And particularly in that place at that time, at that age, it was like a shot in the arm of like freedom. I'm free. And so at that time, you know, I was thinking I got freedom. You know, there's action out here. You know, there's girls, there's drugs, there's rock and roll, there's all these things. And I'm going for it. I know what makes me happy, and I'm free to choose. When I look at myself from the perspective of now, when I look at my teenage self, I don't see it that way anymore. I see I was being controlled. The messages that I had received in my mind had placed programming there to convince me that this was exciting, that this is where pleasure lied. And from my perspective now, I can see, well, there's no question that like I enjoyed certain things and I suffered certain things, but I was still following a script, you could say, that was laid out for me by whatever I was listening. I think rock and roll had a lot to do with it, and films and so on. So now I see myself as just kind of following what was laid out for me. I thought I was free, but I wasn't free. And in one sense, we once read a quote, right? I forget who said it and exactly what it was, but more or less it said that like the greatest bondage is when the person thinks they're free, right? When they're not free, but they think they're free. So when the idea would be then when you're in a lot of us humans aren't even free, although we think we're free. We're not free to make the decisions that we're kind of locked in. What to speak of when you're in the animal body? You're kind of even more locked into behaving like an animal. Pretty much every dog is gonna follow the dog script. You know, you hold a little piece of meat over here and you lift it over there. The dog's gonna get up on its hind legs and go for it, and then you move it over there, and the dog's gonna follow that because the mind's there. Whereas a human being may say, I don't know if this is what I want to do. You know, they have a better potential for that. So there's an opportunity for more freedom to decide one's destiny as a human, it would seem, than as an animal.
So kind of like operating outside of instinct creates problems and complexities, but also offers like chances to evolve spiritually and to experience things at a different
precisely
level.
Yeah, well
So
said.
lowers maybe a word you could use, but it
maybe it's not
it's maybe not nailing it.
Yeah, that's right.
Because lower seems like not as
Maybe
good.
limited or something like that.
I'm sure we've seen like humans act lower than animals.
Sure,
You know what I mean?
right.
Because they take that great intelligence and use it in such a horrible way.
Yeah.
That's why I think people love animals so much, because they hold
Definitely.
up an example of like how we could actually be. We look at those cows and we look in their eyes and we see like the
Sweetheart.
peace and love, and
Yeah.
they're not trying to screw each other over or
A little bit of competition sometimes.
they will. I do see one like knocking the one out of the line for a hay.
Feeding time in the bull section,
Yeah,
it
you're
can
right.
get a little rough.
You betrayed me, cow!
But all that being said, I wanted to bring something up, is that it's not only that we don't think them exactly lower, and it's not only that we have affection for them, but actually we learn from the dog.
Yeah.
And Chanyaka Pandit, one great figure in Indian history, one wise person who shared a lot of aphorisms, he gave like a list of all the different animals and like what we can learn from the animals.
And what was Mimi's?
Well,
What do you learn from Mimi?
Well, this was weird because I always knew it was 6 things that we can learn from the dog. So I Googled it right before the show.
Loyalty's got to be one.
Well, hold on, we'll get there. But it seemed like they listed only 5, so we can count them. And
A loving greeting when you come home. It's the best.
that's the
It's
best.
so cool. Someone is excited to see me. I'm home.
Oh, really?
I just left like 3 minutes ago. I'm back. It's like I've been gone for years.
Right. Okay, so here we go. These are the 6 things, although I think there's only 5 here. Contentment. These are the things a human being can learn from a dog, should learn from a dog. from observing a dog.
Dogs are content.
Hold on. Contentment with little or nothing to eat, although one may have a great appetite. Okay, that dog
My
can.
dog's never content.
Okay. Okay, second
He
one.
will eat the entire, 60-pound bag of food if I let him. One time I left a jar.
When it
of
doesn't have
big-
food, it can be content.
wide mouth jars of coconut oil, like near on a low stool. He ate that massive jar of coconut oil.
Got his snout right in there.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay, second one. This is a good one.
I will tell you what happened the day
This
after.
one is good for the monks, for the brahmacharis, right? You got to learn to be like this. To awaken instantly, although one may be in a deep slumber. Dog just know, boom, it's aware, it's awake, it's like ready to go.
Amazing skill. to
Right.
have.
He's ready to go.
Okay.
Not my dog, man. That guy sleeps all day. You better wake up when I say
Well,
get
your
up.
dog is like in a perpetual state of sleep.
He's elderly. Okay, go on.
Oh gosh. Okay. Next one. Unflinching devotion to the master.
That
Love that.
Right. Unflinching.
that.
Right. I think even in some translations, it's. Oh well, here.
it licks your feet.
Here's the next one. Well, this is the last one they give. I think there's this translation is missing one. Bravery.
Not my dog.
Not so much Mimi. No.
No.
She kind of has she'll make some noise though. I mean, I see her as a early warning system. Like
Yeah.
she's alerting me to the danger. She's not actually going to fight the battle.
Okay.
That's our understanding.
Okay, you got it. Well, you two have an understanding.
There were some coyotes on our front lawn. I was like, "Gosh, coyotes! Chase coyotes!" And he's like, I know. I'm bringing a knife to a gunfight. I'm out of here.
But we do see dogs do amazing things. Brave dogs
There are a
defend.
handful of brave dogs out there.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
no, they fight.
I'm not putting that on Mimi.
Okay. All right. Anyway,
Okay,
that's
what
Johnny
else?
Card.
What else? Is that it?
That's all they got. I mean, if you want other animals, I can go to other animals.
No,
But
it's
that's what we got for the dog.
Sorry. But a lot of animals don't have it as good as Mimi. I mean, look at a bird. How does a bird eat breakfast? It's like puts a little nose in there and over the right shoulder, over the left shoulder, looks over the right shoulder, looks over the left shoulder, eats again. Now that is the life of a bird. It's like imagine if every time Kaustubha was taking lunch, that he's got to look over his shoulder because he's afraid someone's going to hit him over the head with a club. That's how animals live. That's how deers live. That's how, every animal eats like they're about to be murdered. Imagine living like that.
It would be stressful.
It's so much anxiety.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you're one of these massive animals. You don't have, like an elephants don't sweat it so much.
They
Tigers
got
don't
to-
sweat it, but there's
They,
still
they
that
end
fear.
up in some difficult, painful situations.
I think they just do it. I don't think like maybe a lion walks around. It's like, I don't got to worry about you. I'm such a badass. I think he just knows it and just is it. A bird just does that all the time because not because he's neurotic, but because he's just programmed. I think these animals are working on the instinct. They're programming.
Yeah.
I mean, we have our own kind of programming, but it's more socially taught, where I think the birds probably maybe have some of those aspects, but probably a lot of it's just like in the
moment.
coding.
Like the turtle, run.
What's that?
Like the turtle, the baby turtle, the tortoise, whatever. Run. They run for the water.
They run for the water somehow.
They run.
They do. All right. How about the next question?
All right.
here?
Next question. What do we got for the next question? I hope that was all right.
That was fine. The next question is, okay, again, I'm just kind of interested with these different births. So,
Reincarnation interested you.
reincarnation interests me because I just think as a way to incentivize growth in your life, like the idea of reincarnation, I think it is appealing and I think makes sense to me in a lot of ways. I can't remember before I was born. I was just in the abyss. And then one day I was like, oh, here I am. I'm in this crib or something. I had some moment of awareness. So the idea of just coming from that void into a birth, I don't know. There's something about it that makes sense to my own personal experience.
Okay.
But anyway, that aside, the idea of higher planets is kind of new to me.
Mhm.
So I'm seeing the mind as a, it helps you make decisions, the kind of things that would differentiate us from the animals that are working on instinct. But yet the mind is something that we've discussed quite a bit as like it's misleading you and you have to overcome it and kind of put it in its place throughout, this life. So if you're manage that on Earth, the ghetto planet, as Raghu was calling it, and you manage that well, and you get born onto a higher planet, and you are then and I guess things are nicer to whatever degree they're nicer, but you still have a mind. So it seems to me that you're kind of like, the food might be better, but you're still in a prison. You know, you're still,
I'm stealing that.
okay.
Or how about what Jiva says? You're just switching seats on the Titanic.
That's another one. Because the relative, the difference is like, oh, I'm on a higher planet. We can fly places. This is great.
Flying's fun.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. And then you're kind of like, he's flying better than me. How come he always gets to fly on the highest cloud and I can't get up that high? Or like, ooh, look at that pathetic person that can barely fly. They're like same trap.
I think Walter hit it on the head here.
I think you see the four Vedas, which from the perspective of some yogis, they see as a preliminary teaching. They speak a lot about how through piety and through ritual, through cultivating good karma, one can elevate themselves to higher planets. And the purpose for that is enjoyment. The idea is that our enjoyment here is measly,
Limited, in a box. But we can only leave this body, either being in this body and just astrally project, or when we die.
Yeah. So then you do. The idea is that if one is generous, if one is kind, if one is grateful, and demonstrates that throughout their life, then they have this opportunity. The promise is there. It's like a carrot to get you to act like, let's say, dharmic, right? To get you to cooperate with nature, to cooperate with the gods, to etc. Then you get this reward. And so part of it is for like, it encourages smooth social dealings, because like everybody's looking out for everyone else. Everyone's trying to be generous and kind and so on. And then you could elevate yourself to these planets and live a very long life with enjoyment that reveals that what's going on here is really small time. But you kind of hit the nail on the head, is that it's said that there's one underlying fear that's still there, even amidst all that enjoyment, is that this is all going to run out, right? That it's just a matter of time before this runs out. So it's kind of like going away on vacation to like the Bahamas or something. You're emptying out your bank account out there. You're having a great time. It's beautiful. It's fantastic.
Someone's got a bigger boat than you, and you're like, oh man, I like his boat. Someone's got a better beach. Man, I got this on Airbnb, but that was better.
Yeah, and then this fear that when my account runs out, I got to go back, and I got to start to earn again. Otherwise, I can't remain here. So therefore, there's higher teachings, higher literature that's saying right there in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's opening kind of gambit with Krishna is, I don't want to fight this battle because I'm going to incur bad karma, and and I'll have to suffer that. And Krishna's saying, you're thinking on the level of the four Vedas. What can I do for enjoyment? What can I do to avoid suffering? That's a lower level of consideration. Really, you should be thinking at a higher level, like, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind. Finding some temporary material enjoyments for me is not my purpose, and it's way below my potential. Rediscovering my own spirit and its unlimited, eternal existence. That's your potential. Aim higher. Aim for that. And so they go from this idea of heavenly enjoyments in the four Vedas to like freedom from material suffering in the Upanishads. And then ultimately, when you get to Bhagavad Gita and really to Srimad Bhagavatam, the idea is divine love. That's actually the complete blossoming of our potential as a soul. That's what you should be aiming for, not the heavenly planets.
I like the fact that Walter, without any prompting, who knows where he got it from, but he figured this very interesting point out.
A lot of these
and just
don't
worded
have
it in his own way.
Yeah.
But this is a Bhagavad Gita verse, basically. You said from the highest planet to the lowest,
All
all
the
places of suffering.
Yeah.
Why? Why is the highest planet the place of suffering?
Birth and death.
Because it's just a moment.
Yeah.
You're just there for a moment. And so whether you're whether you're riding first class on the Titanic, which was probably pretty nice, Imagine what first class must have been on the first, transatlantic, luxury liner. Imagine what that was compared to like, okay,
Leonardo DiCaprio.
I'm Leonardo
down-
DiCaprio and working the pipes at the bottom. Maybe I'll fall in love, whatever it is. Whether you're first class or working in the boiler room, the boat's going down. You figured it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's the condition of all these different planets, and also I think, yeah, different classes on the Titanic. Everybody is dealing with, their suffering, their joys, their hopes, struggles, all these kind of things. So it's like, we're in a really nice place. If the place was more Spartan, I would get used to that, and I would be like, I'm doing this. And then if the food wasn't as good, I'd find the thing in the food that I like best, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, they're making that.
Yeah.
Right now this is like at a very, very nice level. And it was higher than my expectations. So that, your expectations of what you're going to get, what you deserve, how you might lose it, or, these kind of things are I think the things that everyone struggles with. And whether you're on a high planet, a low planet, live in a nice area or a depressed one.
There's a statement, I forget where this is. It's probably somewhere in some Chaitanya literature, maybe in Chaitanya Bhagavat. I'm not sure. But there's some scriptural statement that says that the residents of the heavens, the residents of these heavenly planets, when they kind of get it, okay, I've been enjoying like crazy. It's fact, right? No question. But I know it's coming to an end. And I know I've become conditioned to just want this more. Like if I'm going to have to go back down, I'm thinking about how am I going to get right back up? And they're looking at the residents of the earth and saying they actually got it good, because there's just enough enjoyment and just enough suffering, not too much enjoyment that they become lost like we've become lost, and not too much suffering like on the lower planets where it's just like you're so miserable, you're just trying to find an end to your misery. On the earth, it's kind of a really up and down, up and down. It's a really good position to be in, to aim for liberation, right? To aim for freedom. So we've heard it like that.
Yeah, we're in a great place actually, because we do get our desires met, and we do still feel the pain. Sometimes when you're destitute, you can't think of anything about how am I gonna live?
Yeah,
I'm gonna feed my children. How am I gonna exist? So you can understand, like, even if you don't believe in hellish existences, we have that on this planet. Hell is here on Earth as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like, I'm waking up and where am I getting water from today? How am I going to survive today without getting my butt kicked or whatever? I'm born
or like
in
just
prison.
Turn over any rock and just see what's going on under there. And there's like some dark stuff happening under there.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to look far.
Creatures.
And then of course there's
attacking
people who are living in heavens, right? But anyway, I think we got to that. I think
Okay.
it was good. I think Walter answered it himself pretty much in the question.
Okay.
I'm liking planet Earth. My next question is also related to reincarnation. You go through life, you have your struggles and your challenges, you get some things right, you move forward, you trip up on a few things, you leave your body. Who then decides or judges what your next birth would be? Is that a personal Krishna thing, or does he delegate the authority to someone else? How does that work?
It's outsourced.
Outsourced. He puts a guy on it.
He puts a guy. He's got one of his guys on it.
And a
He
whole
doesn't.
team.
Krishna's into loving sports with and playing. Krishna's the god of love, and he's sort of detached from what's going on in the material world. He's there for us if we need him, if we call upon him. But ultimately, this is regulated by our choices. So the best thing Krishna does is, here's some principles, here's some roadmaps, some rules of the road. Now it's up to you. We were saying yesterday or the other day, like, if you got a Ferrari and you shoot out your tires, don't blame God for that. You shot him out.
Or don't blame Ferrari for that.
And don't blame the Ferrari don't blame the Ferrari for it. So there's sort of like rules. That's where this concept of ethics or morality comes from. It's not like they're going to get you to God. You still need direction, and you still need your focus, and you still need your intention, but at least you have a vehicle. So we can't be irresponsible in behavior that's going to screw up just riding on the road. And when we do drive a little crazy on the road with car with no tires, just banging around and riding recklessly, we're not just risking our life, we're risking everybody on the road's lives. And we see people when they live that adharmic life or an unethical life or an irresponsible life. For example, if I'm your brother and we're living together, we've got a family business, but I'm trying to snort this business up my nose, so to speak. It's not just affecting me and my nose and my addiction issue. It's affecting you as a business partner. As our family members invest love in us, it affects them. So my recklessness is affecting everyone within my universe. So how do we get it? What's the question?
Had to do who judges. So there has to be some kind of mechanism or some kind of judge.
There's a mechanism. It's not God's fault. It's our choices.
Yeah.
And therefore we look towards Vedic teachings, and also it gets into mundane morality and ethics for our benefit. There's like rules of the road of what to do with this material body, how to behave, the thoughts we think, the way we move in this world, the way to treat people, the way we treat ourselves.
Yeah. In a sense, what you're saying is like, say someone's speeding on the highway and the cop pulls him over, gives him a ticket, and they say, "Why are you doing this to me?"
Right.
Well, it's not that the police officer made this happen. You made it happen by your own decision. So that's I was also thinking to mention that. In one sense, who decides? In one sense, we decide. But there is a mechanism, and there are personalities said to be behind it. Like you could answer this other ways, like. They say there's the Yamaraj, right? Like there's one Deva, and he's kind of like the judge of Dharma. Have you been dharmic or have you not been dharmic? And
He's sort of like what we would call Santa Claus. He's making a list, checking it twice, gonna find out who's naughty or nice.
Now, obviously, to do it, it sounds mythological because, like, how could one person be managing all this information? And I suppose the answer to that would be like, well, his brain or his mind isn't like our brain or our mind. Like if someone has a measly little, what did we have? Like our first computer's like 100 megabytes or something like that.
I had one, a TRS-80.
And that's like 100.
Radio Shack.
Was it like 100 megabytes or something like that?
I don't even know.
So like 100. Then
floppy disks.
Yeah, I think my first computer was like 110 megabytes or something like that, right? And which now is just like absurdly small, and its processing power is just like, it was ridiculously. And so what to speak of, we come back in another 100 years, what's possible. So what I can do with that computer, I come back 100 years from now and see what I can do with my computer, and compare to the same guy trying to do this in 1993 with some rinky-dink thing. It would seem impossible, incalculable. How can you calculate at that speed, at this rate? But apparently this being has been entrusted, due to the depth of his own dharma, that he's kind of been entrusted with the faculty to kind of be able to handle all of these separate cases, in a sense. So that's one way to put it. But is something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, a little squirrel.
Okay.
Chasing a squirrel here. I mean, it's a little roundabout. I remember my 1 year of college. They were like, I was like, I'm gonna get into computers. Computers are the future. And sure enough, the professor was like, so these are the computer terminals for all of you to use. This is the future. And on your right over here is the printer room where you will see our printer. And it was like right out of Batman, like a massive room just to print like the paper that had, you had to peel off the sides of the paper. It not even like 8.5 by 11. I was like, the printer room, it prints what the computer tells it to. This is so futuristic. So yes.
So there's that.
There are bigger brains than ours.
But I was also thinking another way to address this question is that, in one sense, everything Raghunath was saying was true. Like we're kind of on our own and we have the freedom to make our own decisions, but there's also this internal monitor. And Krishna, yes, he's like just interested in his own divine play and loving adventures. But to accompany the wandering soul through its perhaps many, many lifetimes through this world, he expands as Paramatma. So this is a really unique idea. It's like that there is this Vishnu expansion. Vishnu, literally what the word means is that he's like like his consciousness pervades everything. So just like in our own bodies, there's one spark, one soul, that's us, and our consciousness pervades the entire body. Like if you touch my toe, I'm aware. If you touch my head, I'm aware, because my consciousness is spread throughout the whole body. So Vishnu, even the very name means that his consciousness is spread, completely throughout the universe. So that means individually, he's within the heart of every living being, there monitoring the thoughts, the desires, the actions. And in a sense, it's all being tallied. Is this what you want? Right? I'm seeing your desires. If that's what you want, then the virtual reality will provide that for you in your next birth. But so it's responding to our desires. It's even just like that, just like I'm picking up what you want, I'm going to deliver it, but with one catch. And that's within this virtual reality, the law of karma has been downloaded and installed. So you get your desire, but you get it to the degree that your karma facilitates. And so, like, say my desire is to go to a beach. If I got one karma, I'm at Coney Island. If I got another karma, I'm at
The Maldives.
or something like that. So there's that kind of computation of desire and merit creates the formula or the recipe for next birth.
He's very wise, isn't he?
Surely is. So might it be like sort of, to use the computer analogy, like maybe like an algorithm? Like if you search Slayer, you might get sent some like Megadeth stuff, or like you get sent in that direction as you are, like your
Paramatma,
is leading you towards that birth by what you do. Like your actions are leading you towards that next birth, without someone necessarily judging or deciding so much.
Yeah. In what sense? Like we do hear this about Yamaraj. Like there's the god of, there's this god of death, right? That's there. But we also, I believe that this Paramatma explanation, I'm not saying that they contradict, like they're mutually exclusive, but that to me, it's just, it kind of has a bit of a more scientific kind of reasoning to it. Here's the formula. There's your desire and your karma. Who's aware of it? Who's conscious of that? That would be Paramatma. Paramatma would be right there to kind of and ready to go with you into that next body. And again, like kind of like there's beautiful. We've read to some degree. It was a couple months ago, but there's one passage in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where one sage is speaking to one king, and he's telling him an allegory about another king who had gone through several births. And this king enjoys and then suffers and goes through all his ups and downs, and then in his next life he takes birth in a female body. And then she now marries another king, loves him. That king dies. She's placing his body on the funeral pyre, and at that moment, someone walks up and begins to speak to her. And that's that's the Paramatma comes and says, "Don't you remember me? Don't you recognize me? I'm your old friend. We've been traveling together and wandering together for for a very, very long time, and we're very far from our original home." And then he begins to say, think about it. Don't you remember? You've been through many different bodies. Sometimes you've been man. Sometimes you've been woman. Sometimes you've been kind of been a combination of both. Sometimes you've been up. Sometimes you've been down, but now you have that opportunity to remember this. And like, so that Paramatma is like, if you don't want to turn to me, okay, that's you're free to do that. I'm here when you turn back. Kind of like that, somehow like a super wise parent, like that could be like, I'm going to give you your space. I'm not going to try to impose anything on you, but I'm right here for you when you come back. And then, and so, okay, I'll facilitate, if that's what you want, you can have that, but I'm here waiting for you to turn back. And when you do, then we have a much higher potential to reach.
It's nice.
Beautiful.
We're out
That's
of
our
time.
time. That's our time. We didn't answer all your
We'll
questions.
have to do another Walter edition.
I
with
got
that.
some other good ones some other time.
Well, we're We're just gonna have to drag Walter back here again.
Okay, we'll drag Walter back.
Thanks.
It was. I really. I've really been enjoying spending time with Walter.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying spending time with everybody here, but
Yeah, we got some great groups, great people here. I'm glad you got to experience. I mean, me and Wally are old friends, so he doesn't know what I do, and I try to share it, but it's hard to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here.
Same. I'm really enjoying it.
Thanks everybody on Facebook listening. This was fun, and I hope you got something out of it. These are great questions Walter asked, because a lot of people ask these questions. You're like super real, relevant, and questions when you're like, oh, why go to heaven when why my dog seems great. Thanks everybody for joining on Facebook. Facebook people, we do this every day. Go to Wisdom of the Sages. Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com. Email
show tomorrow.
Mara,
email
and
Mara.
you can get the secret codes to join our Zoom group and do it live with us. But you can also just download the podcast wherever you get podcasts and YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, write a comment, hit the subscribe bell. Subscribe and the alert bell. I'm really dropping the ball today. And leave some comments. No show tomorrow.
No show tomorrow. We're back at 6:30 Eastern time on Monday.
Yeah. And if you like what we're doing, also, you can go to Apple Podcasts, write a little review. I read them all. Sometimes I'm in a bad mood. I read those reviews. It picks me up a little bit. That means write a good review. Because I'm already depressed if I'm reading those reviews.
We got to see people's dogs this morning. Who can show us their dog? Here
We got a lot
Clifford.
of dogs on the show that listen to this show. These aren't ordinary dogs. You're getting the mercy of great souls who are dedicated to the Bhagavatam.